So 2 days ago, I get a text from a buddy of mine who we talk a lot about movies and the meanings behind and symbolism and filmography and things of that nature. We get into really deep conversations about a lot of that stuff. And he showed me a website where apparently it was set up to tease the upcoming Matrix 4 trailer. And I'm sure a lot of people have seen it by now because the trailer has already been released, and this website that came out is probably went around and did its fair share over the internet of moving around. And basically it was click one of the two, the red pill or the blue pill, and it'll send you to a teaser that'll say, 2 days from now the trailer's coming. But the unique thing was that no matter what time you pressed it, it would always read the time off to you. So it's like, oh, you believe it's 2:09 and it's not. And then if you did it like 10 minutes later, it's like, oh, you would believe it's 2:19 but it's not. So it was very unique how they did that as a marketing tool. It was fun. It got me excited for this trailer. And the thing that I would say is probably the biggest takeaway is that no matter which one you pressed, you automatically got it. Like, I feel like it should have been that only if you pressed the red pill, you should have gotten the teaser. If you pressed the blue pill, the website should have shut down. That's just my opinion. I thought it would have been fun to have a little bit more of an interaction in that sense. However, that's already in the past. We've already gotten the official trailer. It came out today. I am super excited for this film. This film has been talked about for so long, and because of all the issues with COVID-19 and the pandemic and things being shut down, it's made a detrimental blow to a lot of production companies and a lot of filming for a lot of things that we all love, and we all have seen the effect in the film industry and the television industry and all the things of being slightly affected in different ways. So the production of this was pushed, and now instead of being released back in May of this year, it's now going to be released at the end of this year in December, close to the end, close to Christmas, I believe. And unfortunately, that doesn't mean that we're getting the same month that John Wick is going to be releasing as well. I remember one big thing was that it was meant to be this battle between the Keanu Reeves films, the fourth installment of The Matrix and then the fourth installment of John Wick, released the same weekend, 2 days apart. That was a big thing back in May when they were both supposed to be done, and unfortunately neither of them were finished. So John Wick 4 still has a release date of next year in May 2022. But this Matrix film is coming out this year, so within a couple of months. So it's pretty much done. It's in its production level. We got a really fantastic trailer. I'm really excited about it. And it just looks like a nice added bonus to what we got in the universe so far with the first three films. Now, I'm not going to go into the symbolism that a lot of people have been attaching to it, especially with what is the Wachowski brothers and the Wachowski sisters, I should say now, forgive me, and any of the symbolism that people attach to it. I don't really get into things like that, like I can compare that to, say, Supernatural. A lot of people were like utilizing what they wanted some of the stories to be, especially like the relationship between like Dean and Castiel, and there was a lot of things that people really did too deep of a dive into, and I always relate it to what's his name, Sean Cunningham. He's the director of the very first Friday the 13th. I might have brought this up in the podcast before, but I saw him at the New York City Horror Film Festival, and he had a Q&A after a showing of the first movie and whatnot, and he had a Q&A right before he was given an award for the beginning of one of the greatest franchises of the 80s, I believe, or something of that nature. I forget what the award was for, but he was given a Q&A, and people were standing up and asking him questions like, what was it like, seeing what Friday the 13th became, is there any sort of is there any sort of thing that you would have done differently and all that stuff. And then one of the people was like, do you connect the symbolism of the forest, meaning like a person's virginity and the idea of the premarital sex going on with throughout the film a symbolization of how teenagers shouldn't be having sex before marriage? Was there any of that notion in the script when you wrote it for the first time? It was one of those bizarre questions of how people draw to conclusions because they want to see more meaning in something than there really is. And he flat out said, I don't know where anybody got that from. We wrote a horror movie. That's it. So anybody's interpretation is up to them, but that wasn't our intention when we moved forward. So now, regardless of what anybody can come out and say about, say, these films or even this film, and regardless of what the Wachowskis have done or what's the coming out or the changes they have been making, regardless of any of that, you can make the connections as you want. But if you were to interview any of them back then, they probably would have said something very similar, because a lot of the times people write movies and they don't write them with any sort of other underlining meaning. You know, it's not all Christopher Nolan, it's not all Martin Scorsese, it's not all these films that have these deeper meanings. Sometimes people just write films to write films, and the symbolism just so happens to pop out, and sometimes it only pops out to us fans. So I do understand why people want to see the symbolism. I never saw the symbolism, but then again, I'm not part of that community, so I can't really say anything about that. But I'm taking this movie as just a fan, and the trailer itself is just a nice shining light on what we could have moving forward in terms of what the possibilities are, because it doesn't give too much away. It gives us what we want. It gives us more Matrix, esque fighting and stylistic perspective and whatnot. Like, the Matrix had a very specific style, and I feel a lot of that radiating is the word I'm trying to find. I feel a lot of that radiating from this trailer. Now, the fun thing about this trailer is also the idea of it doesn't really tell you 100%, where this fits. Its name is Resurrections, so the fourth film is titled The Matrix Resurrections, which to us implies that, this is another telling of Neo. In the second film, I believe, where he meets the creator tells him that you are one of many Neos that have come before you, and there's always been a different decision being made and different personality traits. So this is just the next iteration of Neo, which is what some people go to. But I even went through the comments of the original YouTube video that was posted. I believe it was on Machinima or IGN. I forget what channel it was originally on that I saw it on. But I was going through the comments of that 4 hours after it was posted, and I was reading a lot of these other people saying some things that were just really eye-opening and really made you think. So in the trailer, you see these things that lead you to believe that maybe there's a new way that the machines have been able to kind of trick people, and kind of open people's, not open people's minds, but like close people's minds, I should say. And there's a scene where Neo's holding a whole bag of like blue pills, and he throws them all into a sink. So that's like the concept, like, okay, the machines are getting smarter with how they're manipulating people in the Matrix. So is this a retelling of the story, or is this now a more revamped version because now the machines have gotten smarter? You also got to think that they probably didn't think of this when it came to the films almost 20 years ago, when you really think about it. The film's over 15, 20 years old. And then somebody else pointed out that it's possible that this new film isn't necessarily a prequel, not necessarily a sequel, but a prequel, because there's a certain level of technology missing from the originals that they're able to portray now, because cell phones weren't that big of a deal back in 2003 and 4 and 5 and when the films first came out. So you have these other films that are not really connected to where technology is now. And now you have this film. So maybe the good premise is showing that where humanity eventually led to, that this is now the end-all that led into what the story was prior to all these other Neos, and this Keanu Reeves Neo is the first Neo, and this is where he awakens people. And, that's, the trailer doesn't really lead you down that path, but it is an interesting perspective that was brought up in the comments under the video, and it's something that really opened my eyes too. It's like, even if you see the idea of a different Morpheus. That could also be a younger Morpheus being played by the guy who played in the Candyman film that just came out this year, and he did a tremendous job, and I think he's a great actor, and I'm looking forward to him portraying Morpheus now. And we're also going to see the return of Carrie-Anne Moss and Jada Pinkett Smith, and we're going to see a lot of people come back. I think the only one that's not coming back is Hugo Weaving. I think Hugo Weaving's not involved in this film. I don't remember seeing him in the trailer. But there are a lot of other people. I know Christina Ricci is involved in some way, shape, or form. Thelma Hopkins. Who else? There's somebody else I recognized in the film, in the trailer. Can't remember the name of them off the top of my head, but all the people that I've realized that are coming back for it, including people reprising roles from the other films. It's just nice to see that this is going to be a sequel to a series that we're definitely due, and it's probably come at a great time in what the story is portraying. And it's really a good question to ask what this film actually could bring to the table. Is it going to be sequel-esque? Is it going to be prequel-esque? Is it going to be maybe even mid-story? Like, why not think that way? Why not think mid-story when it comes to the idea of, you know, there being multiple versions of a Neo and us kind of seeing like the 11th iteration or the 10th iteration or something? This could just be another one. This could be like the 5th iteration. I know that there's the Hunger Games trilogy that's became 4 films. It's 3 books, and that author came out with a 4th book that's technically a prequel, but not necessarily a prequel to the storyline of the 3 books, because those 3 books take place at the 75th annual Hunger Games, and her 4th book takes place at the 25th annual Hunger Games. So this could easily just be another iteration of Neo that just had a different storyline, a different background. There's no question that we aren't going to be 100% sure of what to expect from this film, just as much as we didn't know what to expect from the first 3. Even though the first film kind of just kickstarted this fantastic universe and built into what the other 2 were. And even going back to what I was saying before, a lot of the symbolisms, people took a lot of the symbolism in those films as like being very, you know, religious orientated and Jesus orientated and of that kind of nature. And that could be true too, but that could be true to just those fans. And what's nice about a film like this is the concept of what it is that you take away from it. And I don't, you know, disregard anybody and what they take away from it. All I'm saying is, you know, look at it through multiple lenses. And that's what I'm doing. I do see what the LGBTQ community sees from it. I do see what the religious community sees from it. But me as a fan, I just see it for the quality film that it is and whether or not it's good storytelling. And to me, you know, maybe the third one could be a bit iffy, you know, but the first 2 is fantastic. Not only is the first one set a precedent for action films moving forward, but the second one was a great iteration after the fact. Getting to see Neo doing all that fighting stuff, and now in this new trailer where we're getting to see kind of a more of an extension of those powers, it just it opens up questions that we're not going to know until the film finally releases. And it is a little upsetting that only one of the Wachowskis is doing it. I'm not sure why one of the sisters didn't want to do the film again. I remember reading something. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I think she was doing another project while Lana Wachowski did this one. The sister went off and did a different one. I'm not 100% certain why they didn't decide to do the 4th one together. But I am glad we finally are getting it, and it has an official release date after everything that's been going on. And this trailer was very, very good when it comes to what you would be expecting from, not giving you too much, but giving you enough to make these questions exist and to keep you asking questions. Sometimes trailers give you too much, and I think this trailer was just that sweet center of just enough where I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but I'm super looking forward to it, and I cannot wait to finally get the 4th iteration and to just get more Keanu Reeves films, because he's fantastic. Let's just keep getting more Keanu Reeves films, please.